Hey everyone, this is Digital Media Artist Los Angeles, or DMALA, or DMALA, as some like to call it. I'm Warren. I'm hosting the event today. Of course, we have several co-hosts that make these events happen. We also have a guest artist with us today. But let's see, I'll go through the across people the way I see them on my screen. But Michael Mondragon, who also hosts our live stream, he's the one that makes this actually technically possible. So a quick thank you. We have Mike White and Nadia Hernandez, and then our guest host or guest artist, Gordon Howie, who I'm going to introduce after a little more after a couple announcements. But let's see, I've got my announcement list. Where did it go? So this is our second meeting of DMALA for 2022. We're shooting for the fourth Tuesday of every month around at 6:30 p.m. We missed last month, turned into a bit of a mess, but we got it for this month. Let's see, NAB is coming up next month. That's going to be an in-person event. If we were still doing our in-person event, we'd usually ask everyone to raise their hand, like who's going, who's not going. If you are going and you've got some interesting feedback about it, be sure to share that later. I hope NAB is a success this year because it's what'll get me back there the following year. The Media Motion Ball, I've read that is happening. So if you're going to be going to Vegas and going to NAB, it's going to be an outdoor event. And I assume they're doing Media Motion Ball always has, besides being a great networking event or networking option, they always have usually the hardware sponsors or the sponsors that have giveaways. Usually there's some really good stuff that's given away. And let's see, I think I figured out how to make Eventbrite work. Like a big way we used to announce our meetings was through Eventbrite. And I think I have that working. So if you're used to hearing from Eventbrite first before showing up to one of our events, maybe next month I'll have that working. And I've confirmed with Michael that we can do door prizes through the live stream. So as soon as I can get like a sponsor prize set up, we'll hopefully be getting back to that on a regular basis. And well, you may notice, sometimes you notice some of our co-hosts aren't here just because part of the reason we have so many co-hosts is to keep these meetings going. Some of us get stuck at work. And Co stepped down at the end of last year, and Katie officially sent her saying like, "Hey guys, it's been awesome, but I'm really busy with getting my company started." So Katie has officially stepped down. And you may remember when we came to our in-person event, Steve was always there to take your ticket, check you in. Steve having a 3-year-old, and I think a 1-year-old, he said in his latest email, so he may have a second kid now. So Steve's officially stepped down as well. So as we go forward, we won't be seeing their faces as often. But let's see, Katie or Nadia, you mentioned at our last meeting that you had left your job. So what have you been up to, or what have you anything?
I'm actually freelancing at 2 places right now. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm doing motion graphics templates for one place, and then for another place, I'm doing Instagram filters. So it's been a bunch of fun, and we'll see what happens next.
Okay, very cool. And then Mike White, do you have any updates for us?
I do not. I'm just steady
No.
as she goes, working hard.
Yeah. Cool. And then Mondragon, you had a career change thing going on too. Any updates there?
Yeah, I'm just transitioning out. I was working for Kaiser Permanente, UI UX designer. Looking for my next opportunity. It should be pretty interesting. I think it was time to go, as we all know when it's time to go, but it was kind of forced upon me. So, but I'm super excited about the future. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, very cool. And actually, I should remember to announce. So CBS, where I'm at, had a position open for a senior designer that did get filled. Paramount Plus, which is it's all Paramount Global is the big company, but Paramount Plus has its own in-house marketing department that's very similar to the CBS in-house promo department. They have a position open that I noticed on LinkedIn for a senior designer. So if there's somebody in the DMA world that's interested, that I think that one's remote as well, but I can't say for sure. But all right, I think I got through everything important in my announcement list. Yeah. So, well, Gordon. So, the thing about Gordon Howie, or what's maybe very unique about him as a presenter, is he's in Sweden. So I think like we've had some people come from really far away for our LA presentations.
I'm in Scotland, Warren.
Scotland. Oh my gosh. So
Begins with
that's
it.
where my brain is right now. I'm going to blame that one on low blood sugar. Scotland. Okay. Well, I saw a promo piece Gordon made for himself, and I thought that's a fantastic little spot. And as I found out more about it, I just reached out to him saying, "Hey, would you be into like sharing a little bit about what went into making that?" So Gordon, well, yeah. So Scotland. That's still, well, it's 2 a.m. where you're at, right? So it's or 1 a.m.
Almost. Yeah,
almost.
half
1:30,
here.
1:45.
Yeah.
So maybe our latest presentation, as far as like from where you're at, but definitely the furthest away, right? So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, Gordon, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a 2D motion designer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so hi folks, I'm a freelance motion designer and I've been working in the industry now for 10 years. And I've done a mixture of different things like kind of explainer videos, corporate architectural visualization stuff, all the way through to art installations, music videos. And I've recently finished 2 seasons of a kids' TV show. So a good range of work in there. And primarily I use After Effects in my work, but the last couple of years I've been starting to experiment with frame-by-frame animation. And yeah, Procreate was like the gateway into this. So yeah, it's really exciting, and I'm really enjoying learning more about the frame-by-frame process. And yeah.
So basically hand drawing it in Procreate on your iPad.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then bringing it into After Effects to add the bells and whistles.
Yeah. Which is adding, there's I've worked on a couple animated shows. If anyone ever gets a chance to see Vault the Wonder Deer, all of Vault's little extra lightning is all After Effects. That was animated in Adobe Flash, which became Animate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty common to add that extra little plussing stuff out, adding that little extra. So After Effects is often thought as a 3D finishing animation tool, but it's also very much a 2D animation finishing tool as well.
Yeah.
If you're not just doing all the animation from scratch in After Effects. But let's see. So do we want to show your process video you recorded for us first,
Sure.
and then the promo spot, or the wizard, right? Is what you call it, right?
Yeah.
Or should we show the wizard first?
Yeah. Do you want to show it first, and then it'll maybe make more sense to unpack how I did it?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, I'm gonna applaud for that.
Oh,
I think it's such a great spot. I really do. Yeah. And well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of kind of whimsical like fantasy. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. Basically, it was a good fun little piece, and yeah, it seems to have connected well with people as well. I think a lot of people enjoy it, and I don't know if it's got that kind of childlike whimsy is what is connecting with people, but yeah, I'm really proud of it.
And then where'd you find the music to go with it?
So that was on Premium Beat. Basically, I had some credit left over, and that was kind of the reason I chose to add music. Well, that, and also I wanted to just extend the animation because the loop itself was quite short. So I thought I need to beef it out in some way to kind of show off all the fancy swooshes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and actually I basically typed in fantasy, and that was the first track that came up, and that never happens when you're searching for production
Oh
music.
yeah,
So,
searching for a stock anything can just be the first results. Sometimes you avoid them because you think that's what everybody's gone for or something, or
yeah,
it just, and then maybe you go to like on page 50. But when it comes to music, finding the right sound for something,
it takes so
it's a good
long.
match. So it's interesting to hear that was like a first result.
Yeah, and it reminded me of the Fantasia a little bit. And I don't know, just the kind of wizardy flavor of it all. Just I felt like it really matched. And when I brought it into After Effects as well, the timing, all the kind of beats were hitting the animation I'd already done. So it was like, oh my god, this is like meant to be.
Yeah. All right. Nice.
So yeah, it was a happy accident, basically.
Okay, well, let's get to your
Oh yeah, so yeah,
how to spot.
Pre-recorded a sort of behind the scenes presentation. So yeah, this breaks down how I actually made it. If you want to play that, Mike.
Great.
Folks, I'm going to show you the process of how I used Procreate and After Effects to create my short animation Blobs and Wizardry. This technique is really simple, and I've split it into 3 steps. Step 1, frame by frame animation in Procreate. Step 2, clean up and export from Procreate. And step 3, importing into After Effects for final compositing. After setting up my canvas in Procreate, I usually start by creating a really rough reference sketch to help guide the composition. Once I've got this in place, I began to animate frame by frame. So I wanted to make this wee wizard to basically help practice my frame by frame skills. And I also wanted to create something that was more organic and loose and didn't require too much planning. You can see that there's a lot of back and forth at this stage, and my primary goal here was to define how the wizard comes on and off screen, as well as define the shape and movement of the spell. Once I got the animation working, I keep going back to the start to add additional details and swooshes. Thankfully, the swooshes and small details were pretty quick to make, and also actually quite addictive. This whole final part of the process, just adding the final touches, was quite relaxing and soothing. And after I was happy with the animated loop, I moved on to step 2, the cleanup. As I'd planned to import this into After Effects, I wanted to have the ability to isolate specific elements of the animation so that I could apply colours and effects. To do this, I need to create a clean, solid shape for each element. The way that Procreate's animation system works is that each frame is represented by a layer, so adding additional layers for colours or textures can break the animation frames that we've got set up. To work around this, I add a blank new layer above the frame and then group them together. Procreate then reads the group as a frame within the animation, so that gives us the power to add extra layers of colour. Once I had my group set up, I went back to the start of the animation and began to trace clean, solid shapes around each element. I wasn't too precious about colour choices at this point, as the focus was to create a solid shape that I could adjust later in After Effects. This can be a bit time consuming to set up, but it does give you more flexibility in After Effects. So depending on the size of your canvas, Procreate limits the amount of frames that are available. So the way I avoided this was I duplicated my master animation file 3 times and then dedicated each file to a specific element of the animation. I had one for the wizard, one for the magic spell, and one for the magical swoosh. After I had all of the elements colour coded on separate layers, I exported them as a Photoshop file ready for step 3, bringing into After Effects. When I first imported the Photoshop files into After Effects, I realised that I needed to do a little bit of housekeeping. The frames from Procreate come into After Effects as pre-comps, So to get the animation to play back, we need to trim all of the pre-comps to 1 frame in length and then sequence the layers. Once you've got your layers sequenced, we need to isolate the colors. So an easy way to do this is using the change color effect. You apply the effect to the layer, select the color you want to isolate, and then change the view to color correction mask. Then copy and paste the effect onto all of the other layers. Duplicate your pre-comp, remove the effect from all layers, and then repeat the process, picking a different color. Alternatively, you can manually organize the Photoshop layers into their own pre-comps. Once I had everything pre-comped and organized, it looked something like this. I had various parts of the spells all isolated into their own layer. And it was at this point that I began to experiment with duplicating the pre-comps, rotating them around, and seeing how they interacted with each other. So this led to the idea for me to add some music and create a slightly longer sequence. So once I was happy with the timing, I went through everything and changed the colours and added some final glows. And so that's how I use Procreate and After Effects to create this animation.
Very
There we
cool.
go. Hope that was interesting.
So
And actually, sorry, just super quick. I realized the change color effect technique I showed there, it does have one drawback. So if you've got one color selected and another color intersects it, you're going to see that intersection. So
okay.
it's good for if you are kind of rebuilding things on top of each other, but if you want to break them apart, then unfortunately you have to manually organize the layers. So just, I need to put that as a little footnote.
Okay.
But yeah.
Now, so you mentioned on a technical level, you mentioned a limitation you'd run into was Procreate. So you broke it down into 3 parts.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure. Yep.
So you're in Procreate, you're working away, but then Procreate has a limit on frames, or what was that?
So yeah, so a frame in Procreate is a layer, and depending on your canvas size, you're limited to an amount of layers.
Okay.
So I basically, once I'd done my initial animation, which I think was 98 frames, I was then going back into each frame and adding additional. So I think it turned into like I don't even know what the number was. I can't
Crazy
do
number
quick
of frames.
math, but it started really building up quickly. And yeah, I was halfway through coloring the wizard. I'm gonna cough, excuse me. I was halfway through coloring the wizard, and yeah, I can't remember what the notification was, but it was basically like you've run out of frames. So I thought, I don't know how I'm gonna. So yeah, just went back to the file, duplicated it, and then erased the color I'd added, and then started again basically. And then when I brought it into After Effects, it was like building a jigsaw. Sorry, excuse me, I've got something tickling my throat. Hang on.
It's all good.
So yeah, that's I think it tells you in the canvas information tab in Procreate. Sorry guys. So yeah, in the canvas tab, it will tell you, and it also changes. So if you increase or decrease your canvas size, it will show you how many layers you've got available to use. And so just maybe when you're going in to make an animation, if you have a wee look at that and just think, how can I use that efficiently, or do I need to duplicate it, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Right. And then as far as getting it off the iPad and over to After Effects, were there any challenges that came there? Or
no, that's one thing I love about Procreate. So I've got it connected to my. Oh my goodness, sorry.
Do you want me to? I can talk about another topic for tonight.
Give me
if you
1
want to
minute.
cough for a second. Okay. So while our guest is coughing, I forget. Now I'm coughing. Oh my gosh.
Here, I
Maybe it's
can help you
contagious
out.
like sneezes.
I can help you out a little bit. I use Procreate a ton, and I use it in a professional sense as well. And it is one of my favorite things as well, is that once you're just in Procreate playing and you go to export, it gives you a lot of great options for exporting. PSD with layers.
And I
PNG,
know animated GIF is in there, like animated PNG. Like I've used it.
different
I've used it for a
settings.
little bit, like just enough to be dangerous.
And depending on what you're trying to do, you can even use this time lapse function for animation purposes. If you were just looking for a lazy way to kind of like get a quick test out or something like that. And it's one of my favorite things. I love all the export options coming out of Procreate. It's great.
And it's
The
great
time
for
lapses
behind
were-
the scenes stuff as well. If you want to demonstrate like, oh, this is how I did it, or these are the changes I made.
Yeah.
So it records a sort of time lapse of your project. So yeah, sorry, I cut you off there, Warren.
No, I think I was gonna say the exact same thing. So
Yeah.
just when you play the time lapse, it plays everything you've been doing the entire time.
Yeah.
So that's a very cool feature.
Yeah.
Now I started thinking like two things at the same time, and I think I forgot both of them because then I also started to cough. But when it comes to like learning Procreate, do you think it's what do you think about like the learning curve? Because I'm just realizing right now my sister wants to start learning Procreate, and I told her, oh yeah, we're going to be talking about that at DMALA, and I didn't send her a link.
Oh, no.
So watch. Oh well, I'll have to catch the recording. But
I think it's fairly intuitive. I felt compared to other pieces of software, it's very stripped back, and everything's really clear and very comfortable and easy to use, and especially the animation feature. That's another aspect I love to this is you literally sit down, open it up, and you just need to select Animation Assist, and straight away you've got your frames available to do your animation. So it's
start doing the animation work.
So it's there's not a lot of barriers between you and creativity, basically.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
I was wondering, Gordon, like I really like the timing. It feels all very good, very natural. Like, did you look at any reference, or did you just kind of play with the sort of back and forth animation until you got something that you liked?
Yeah, well, that's one thing I feel compared to After Effects. I feel like with frame by frame animation, I feel like designing motion for me personally is so much easier. And I didn't look at any references. I have done a class. It was the Ben Marriott motion design school frame by frame thing, and it kind of explained, if you want things to slow down, add more frames. If you want things to speed up, all that kind of stuff. So that was in my mind. But yeah, so often what I do is I'll try and just get a rough direction, and then I'll go in and add padding where I want to slow it down or speed it up, kind of thing. But yeah, there was no specific reference, and it was just I just went for it basically.
Yeah, super cool.
And for learning Procreate, did you just launch it and start to use it, or did you, I don't know, watch a YouTube video on it, read the user manual?
So I jumped in straight away, but I think the one thing I would say that isn't as intuitive is the masking elements. I feel like I needed. That was the first, the main reason I went to YouTube for Procreate was for just to learn how to do masking and properly group things.
Okay.
But in terms of just getting in there and starting to paint and draw, it's really simple. But I think once you start digging into like if you want to add texture or if you want to create masks and things like that, it's definitely a bit more. I mean, it's not difficult, but it's just there's a couple more clicks you have to do to achieve it. And I had a question for Nadia, actually. Have you played around with the new facial mask stuff? The sort of filter things you can do in Procreate?
No, I didn't even know that was available. I saw that they have Like you could paint in 3D in there now. I don't have
Yeah.
like a new iPad, so I can't do it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I think
yeah, I
they've
didn't
got
even know they
an
had that.
AR filter thing that you can design stuff. So I wanted to try doing like the swooshy, wizardy swooshes, but like as a filter could be quite cool. But,
That's cool. I gotta buy myself a new iPad.
Yeah.
This made me think of I've recently been dealing with Snapchat lenses more. And of course, I'm heavily Photoshop based, but I think Procreate seems to be the natural place to, at least for very organic looking drawn stuff, it just has to be saved as a PNG for it to go into Lens Studio. Got to get the name of the software right. And then you've got your whatever you've drawn in Snapchat as a lens. Let's see, Gordon, what else I want to ask you? So you said you've been doing motion graphics for about 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Did you study anywhere? Like, what's the academic background behind that? Or
So I studied filmmaking and screenwriting, and
Okay.
it was during my course. We didn't learn motion graphics specifically, but in my free time, I was doing digital art anyway. And there was one project I did actually. I wanted to do it with green screen, and obviously I was like, trying to figure out how to do this. And After Effects was available in the uni, so I thought I'm going to give this a shot. So I started with sort of more visual effects, filmmaking stuff, and there came a point where I realized I could bring in my artwork into After Effects and bring it to life. So that was like the real penny drop moment of, oh my goodness, I don't know why I'd never considered animation before. I think I can draw an image, but I'm not an I'm not a fine artist. So I think I just assumed, animations for people who are super talented and can draw, like realistic images. So yeah, I love the medium so much. It's so expressive and colorful and joyful. So yeah, it was just a really good
I think
intersection.
After Effects has that effect. Like, you're in school, you're studying to be whatever, right? And then for some reason, you've opened After Effects and you started to use it. And suddenly, like, you're majoring in whatever, but suddenly, wait, no, I've got to do something with After Effects, or that somehow ties into that better. I think it's actually kind of a common experience.
Yeah, that happened to me too. I was going to school for graphic design, and like in the later part of the courses, I started taking After Effects, and I just ended up kind of specializing in that.
Yeah. I feel like Procreate has slightly been that experience for me for frame by frame animation, because
nice.
While I love Procreate, I think one thing I would say is if you want to do more complex animations or with more elements moving around, probably something like Adobe Animate is much better for handling like different layers and different things going on. But yeah, Procreate was definitely my moment of like, oh my goodness, I can actually do frame by frame animation. Like, I'd never considered that before. So yeah, it was like a shark in water smelling blood or something. I'm like, oh my God, I want to learn all about this thing. I want to do more of this. So yeah.
I think it looks great. I mean, it looks like you've been doing it forever.
I think the trick is like just do little blobs moving around. I feel like one of the things I struggle with is getting a consistent sense of form and volume, and so I struggle with like characters in frame by frame. So I think kind of flourishes and swooshy things I feel like I'm comfortable with and I can do it all right. But if I were to do sort of realistic, or I think it would all fall apart at that point.
I do have a question. You can't do anything with audio in Procreate, or can you?
I don't think so.
So how do you sync it all up, or is it just like, do you do that later, or you do it separately, or?
So yeah, I didn't really explain that very well, but this started as just a pure animated loop. So that was kind of my goal, was just to make a GIF loop. But then once I hit the layer issue, I'd run out of limits. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do all this stuff and then assemble it together in After Effects. Once I was in After Effects, that's when I thought, oh, this looks quite nice. Like I want it to last longer than just a loop. So I'll add music, and then that's kind of why I chose to do that. I think you can import a video, but it doesn't give you audio into Procreate. But when you import the video, it does kind of how I explained there. Each frame will be a layer in Procreate, so you'd have to kind of organize it first and set up all your groups and stuff if you wanted to draw on top of it.
Right.
So again, that's where I think if you're going to do something like that, something like Adobe Animate might be better suited. But if you're just doing a casual like loop or a GIF or something, then I think Procreate is better.
Although, I mean, it's been a while since I've been inside Adobe Animate, but I can remember because everything there it's all cell based as far as in that grid of the timeline. It's always looking for like ActionScript running inside of those cells, and so when it comes to having music playing in sync, it can be a little tricky. And even just scrubbing audio, of course, this is improved, but even scrubbing audio was always a little tricky. So I think there's definitely a step up as far as more complex, longer work, but audio is still a little Flash challenged, or I guess I should call it Animate challenged now. Although, I mean, Adobe knows that the powers that be that we want to often get the Flash stuff, or I can say Animate, to get Animate into After Effects, and so we do have for a while now. We've had the FLA importer, so the Flash project importer, which makes it so much easier to get from After Effects from Flash to After Effects. Of course, I'm still calling it Flash. It's just gonna be it's gonna be Flash forever.
We know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And have you tried to do anything in Animate yet?
So I should have shared this with you as well. But the more recent thing I did for Monday's challenge, I did a kind of glamorous dress going up a set of stairs to get an Oscar.
Oh, okay.
And I did that in Adobe Animate with sound actually, but I wasn't timing anything too specific to the music, so I didn't experience any issues. I wasn't like lip syncing or anything like that. But yeah, again, it was a really short piece, so, and that was the first kind of proper time I've used Animate, so I don't really have enough context to know if it was...
worry about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, one of my this is kind of a totally off topic. One of my best paying freelance gigs by a lot was a Flash-based project. So strangely enough, it was a kiosk for a bank of all things. So
is that why it's got a special place in your heart?
I guess maybe. Like when it comes down to it, like these monitors behind me don't pay for themselves. Right? But I mean, the creative part's like probably the most important part, right? But then that paycheck has got to happen too, because we've all got to get by, right?
Yeah.
So like, are there other programs you plan to maybe explore as far as like where you're like?
I think I'm happy at the minute. I feel like I've got enough to kind of like
to
cover
keep you planning busy.
Yeah. So I think basically just keep practicing with. So my goal actually in the background with Blobs and Wizardry was I've made this version, and then through the year I'm going to try and learn more 2D work, and then at the end of the year I'm going to try and recreate the animation, but do it more, see what I'll do differently basically.
Okay.
But I think I might do like an evil wizard this time, possibly. Right. I don't know yet, but like something like to show a kind of change in. So yeah, I think I'm just going to focus on the crafts of it, I guess, and
I'd love to see a magic battle.
Yeah,
look,
exactly.
That's sort of what I've got in that. Eventually, they'll come together and do some kind of cool thing.
What I love about what you did and what you're doing is like, I feel like you're a great example of how a lot of artists, some of us sit around and you're just doodling. but then that doodling can turn into a more perfected craft. And then now from a more, quote unquote, better art, suddenly you're animating, and then suddenly you have sound. And now you're not just doodling, you're not just like messing around as an artist, you're creating something that could be a commercial. Like imagine if, like with what you did, if suddenly you had the text from Frozen under it, and you like hand drew some transition on, and then one of your magical swipes was like snow from Elsa or one of the, characters or something. It's like suddenly you're like making something that the value is just up and up, as you like learn new things. And I think it's a great example of that. So
one thing as well I was going to talk about is I do love After Effects. This is going to sound like a diss to After Effects, but I think sometimes in After Effects, I feel there's quite a lot of process before you get to your finished beautiful thing. Whereas I felt with frame by frame animation, it's so much more kind of like what I said earlier. There's so little barrier between you and your imagination and your creativity. So there's a nice rawness to it that I think is really hard to capture with. But After Effects makes it look a lot more like, jazzier kind of thing. So
it's the reason why people sometimes ask the question, like, I don't know why I'm just talking about Disney, but they're like, should Disney go back to hand animated films? It's like what they're really asking is like that type of animation that where you can still sense the imperfections. You know what I mean? It's like After Effects, you're using a tool and you have to sort of make it feel natural. It's very mathematical, or can be very rigid, and then you're trying to add in that natural, movement or mistakes that just feels more like nature, that has like a little bit of chaos added to it, right? So it's like when I look at what you did, if I'm trying to recreate that in After Effects using Procreate or particle illusion or something, it's going to take me a period of time to get to that same naturalness, whereas you're able to just sit there and figure it out for yourself. Like, oh, I'm just going to have this go that way or this way. It would take After Effects a lot longer I think to get to that solution. So
and that's something actually I've been using Procreate as well to help with some of my After Effects timings as well. Like I'll draw a rough box doing something, if I need to kind of fix, if I have a composition with movement happening and something isn't working, then I'll just quickly be like, how would I figure this out with frame by frame basically. And it's been such an amazing tool, and I completely encourage anyone to give it a shot at least, because it's very addictive. I found it addictive anyway. So
I find it fun, even though I haven't really tried to use it for anything, but just passing some time or using it as a tool, right? Okay, so something I forgot to do when we first started. Adobe is our main sponsor for DMALA, so I'm supposed to announce that. But also, Adobe has their audio video meetup is coming up, and I believe we have that URL to share. This is I had it up in front of me, and now I lost it already. It's March 30th. I forget what time, but it's a live event that they do on YouTube as well. And this month's topic for the Adobe meetup is Remix from Audition, which some of us may have played with that. That's now actually in Premiere. So it shows up to your left if you're using, also to your right if you're using the default workspace. So they're diving into using Remix. And if you've never heard of Remix, that's how you take, like, let's say the soundtrack Gordon used in his animation piece. He gets it from a stock library at like 5 seconds long, but it winds up needing to be 1 second long or 30 seconds long. With Remix, all you do is, while the track is selected, you tell the software, I'm used to doing it in Audition. I know where the button is in Premiere, but I haven't used it. But you say, I want this to be about a minute long. And Adobe Sensei, Adobe's AI, goes to work and makes it 1 minute. Or if you've got a favorite like dance music track that's only 8 minutes long because it's already a remix, but you want that thing to go for like an hour, it can go the other way. So you can remix a song to be like crazy long, just have that playing in the background.
I've used this. I've used it.
I've used it quite a bit. So It's very, very
It's
handy. And sometimes,
incredibly helpful.
yeah, and even with your clients, there's those like the clients like, oh, we're gonna have to figure out what to do about the music's too long or the music's too short, right? And then you've done it already, and you can have like a wow moment with your client because they're like, how did you get that to happen? And you just say, oh, I just did it,
Magic.
and then the client thinks you're a hero, and hopefully pays you a bonus, and then you go buy your brand new 12.9-inch iPad and play with
There you
Procreate.
go.
or something like that. But yeah, the remix feature is a very handy tool.
Yep.
By far. Another like just thing to talk about. Like I've been finally thinking of upgrading my main monitors that I use. But now we have these like I call them ultra wides. Like one of my coworkers, Eric, just got a 49-inch Samsung that's curved, but it's like, so basically I have two 27-inch displays. That's about 40 something inches across the two displays. But I'm curious amongst us, does everyone have a favorite, like my friend Holly, she's got a 21.5-inch iMac, and that's the perfect size for her. And I sit in front of it and I feel like all crushed in, right? But I'm curious, like I'd like to go around and see if anybody has a favorite, like, do you have a favorite monitor size?
27.
27 inches. Yeah.
Yeah.
32 for me.
32. Yeah.
Yeah.
The price goes up a little bit, but
Yeah.
A good friend of mine convinced me to buy two 4K monitors or 4K resolution monitors,
right.
but I keep them actually at like 1920 by 1080 when I'm working. And then depending on if I'm gaming or working, I'll like change the resolution. So
okay, that's interesting. And then physically, are those 27-inch 4Ks? I guess because like 24-inch to about
it's like
232-inch.
It's like 232-inch monitors.
32-inch, okay. And then I think, was it Adam Bell, the director for I hate it when I blank on names as I think of it. He came in and showed us, was it Unity? And he directed Maze Runner. He has like a 48-inch display that he works in front of. Or was it 43 inches?
It was West Ball.
And
yeah, I was actually just thinking about him because for his presentation he showed up with like there must have been like at least a 50-something inch, 50
big.
60-inch
monitor. And that's what he uses as a computer monitor. He brought in his rig. And I was thinking, well, what's that like, right? And I more recently saw a friend setup that was a 43-inch. I think it's Samsung. I'm like, maybe. I don't know. Of course, my monitors are working great. I think I'll just keep what I have. But
Don't mess with success.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
I actually downgrade. I used to have two 27-inch, but I found like my eyes would dry out a lot quicker and I would get a lot of headaches. I don't know if it was my position or something, but just having the one screen in front of me that is bigger has helped. I don't know if it's having peripheral kind of, yeah. So I prefer just the one screen but slightly bigger to two smaller screens basically. So
yeah, I have two. I have two 27-inch monitors, both 4K. But here's something I wanted to throw into the mix. You just talked about the eye strain. I work on everything from these two monitors that I'm constantly scanning like for 16 hours a day, right? But then I work on stuff this small and tablets. I will say ever since these phones have come out, 2007, 8-ish, my eye strain and eye problems started big time. So I was already working on big monitors for, big Photoshop projects and stuff like that. And just needing that real estate of having stuff open. But my eye strain has gone up tremendously, within the last 10, 15 years. I've noticed it dramatically. Also having too many birthdays also helped. But but it's working in this field. It's part of the process.
I used to have 20/20 vision. No,
so did I.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't? No.
No,
so I was about.
These are too magnified.
Yeah. In college, my vision started to. I didn't need glasses till college, and I think I was in a bit of a weird denial about it. But I'd be in like a large lecture hall, and I'd sit in the back, but I couldn't really read what was getting written on the board or what was being projected. So I'd start sitting closer up. And then by the time I was graduating as a senior, I had trouble seeing clearly off the person sitting next to me off of their notes. And I was like,
Wow.
I've got to go get my eyes checked for glasses. It took me
Yeah.
probably way too long. And then got the glasses and I could see again. So
I'm near and farsighted. Literally. I have to have
Yeah, I
two
think
pairs of
that's-
glasses.
okay.
One when I drive, one when I work.
Mm. As long as you don't lose them, right, or misplace them, you're in good shape.
I never said I didn't do that. I've done that many times. It's
And I guess,
it's awful.
and I think with eye strain, it's almost similar to what is it, carpal tunnel, right?
Yeah.
As far as like, we need to, I don't know, maybe make sure we're always at the right distance, or
Take
I know
breaks.
if your hand is hurting, yeah, you need to take appropriate breaks and stop whatever is causing the physical issue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course,
take
we get
breaks.
take
I was
breaks.
gonna say, for me, a big thing with eye strain is making sure I have like something behind my monitor. So it's like, even when if I take a second to pause, to think, to look away or anything, that my eyes are actually looking as far away as possible. So everywhere when I've had to work in the office, I always wanted to be in a situation where I was like looking a great distance when I wasn't looking at my monitor and stuff like that helps. But yeah, rest, you can't beat that one. So
Right.
Yeah. Because we want to be able to, have healthy hands and healthy eyes, so we can do this for a good 50 years, right?
The money makers.
Or longer. Yeah, the money makers. There we go. Okay. So, well, Gordon, thank you very much for staying up extra late. And
Right.
well, are you a bit of a night owl anyway, or?
I can be. I think it depends. Like, I think the adrenaline kept me up tonight, and I had an iron brew also. Don't know if you guys know of iron brew. I
Oh.
probably shouldn't. That's not sponsored.
When we had well-sponsored in-person events, there was a bar, so you could get wine.
It's part of it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
so
no,
as long
thank
as
you
I
so
did-
much for inviting me, to meet you all. It's been really nice. And yeah, and if you want to start a Scottish DMA, let me know.
DMA Scotland. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll start it up. Let us know.
Cool.
All right,
Sounds
very
good.
cool. So, again, always DMALA crew. It's always so great to see you guys. And we'll try to get an announcement out for the next one as soon as we can. Right?
Great. Good night,
Take
everyone.
breaks.
All right.
All right.
Bye.